What's good, everyone? Welcome to another reading. This one's going to be about a message that you need to hear. So, possibly even call this like an urgent message that you need to hear. That was just the general vibe of the reading today. So, no big introduction needed. Get stuck into the piles, pile 1, pile 2, and pile 3. Feel free to pause the video and I'll get stuck into pile number 1s. Got my coffee with me today. Pile 1, so sorry if there's some sipping going on. Oh, Jesus. Thank you. Okay, I'm just sitting on the energy. I feel like there's something to do with vision in this reading. What do you see? What do you feel? Possibly what do you even hear? Pile 1s. I think I'm gonna leave that there. The only thing, there's quite a bizarre thing that's coming through, which is like the flick of the hair. So it's a really interesting thing. This interesting detail, I should say. So there's some kind of distractions outside. Try not to get thrown off. But yeah, pile 1s, I don't know if that means anything to you, but it's like, I'm not sure what era that's from, but there's like a flick, a real flick at the bottom of the hair. It's just like a detail that Spirit was pointing out. Maybe there's a certain deity that has that. Just gonna make it a bit more specific. It does have kind of Isis vibes to it too. So yeah, let's kind of get some keywords out there. Keywords is clearly like vision, third eye. I didn't want to actually draw an eye in there. It wasn't necessary. I guess Isis, so it's missing the wings, but her arms are almost represent representing the wings. I'm not sure if it's Ma'at. If that's even the same goddess, I'm not sure, but that's kind of coming through as well. So yeah, I think I've got it. I think I've got the message. The message is you're coming into a phase. So your urgent message is you're coming into a phase where you're all seeing, and the bit of truth of that is that it can actually be a scary process because it's like going to the bottom of the ocean and you've never gone to the bottom of the ocean before, and opening your eyes and seeing things clearly for the first time. It's maybe that's not even the best example because it's like the actual example is imagine going to the bottom of the ocean every day, and then you have an experience and you go to the bottom of the ocean and it looks completely different. And it looks completely different because you've opened a certain portal, a certain perspective. So the old way of seeing things has gone and the new way of seeing things is arrived. And basically that's a scary process because everything looks different to how you used to see it. And spirit is kind of, I guess this is in that urgent message for you pile number ones, because it's like, to be quite honest with you, this is the phase where someone starts looking a little bit crazy or a little bit mad, you know, when someone has a spiritual awakening and there's that detachment from their friends, family. They try and bring these new concepts to certain old connections, and they're basically looking at them with a raised eyebrow. You know, it's that conversation where you try and tell people that we're all mirroring each other, we're living in a matrix, and that person might question your mental health. You know, it's like, and again, some of you might be listening to this and you might have some, you might be in a circle, thank God, which is quite open-minded to these concepts, friends, family who kind of are open-minded to these ideas and may not judge you, but there's some of us, I know for sure I did come into experiences where I was kind of expressing myself and realised real quick that it wasn't a smart thing to do, at least not to the wrong people, to the wrong circles. So yeah, like spirituality, like spirit's just kind of poking me to say this as well, that spirituality is a little bit similar to politics sometimes, in the same way that, you know, like if you are left and your best friend is right, it's important to understand that with certain conversations it is going to cause friction. There's certain people out there who are stubborn in their ways and they go, okay, so I'm right, so you're going to hear my opinion if you agree with it or not. And, you know, the other person might be like, I'm left and you haven't seen this perspective. But I believe the smartest of us kind of just listen and understand when we can input opinions into conversations instead of pushing our opinions into conversations. Now, I know for sure there's people who are listening to this who are going to disagree. But that's just my opinion, and that opinion does not come from a place of passiveness, because I can guarantee you I've been in my fair share of physical and verbal altercations, put it that way. I'm not afraid of that, but I've learned in my years of being on this earthly plane that sometimes that's just not the smart thing to do. So Pile number ones, this is kind of just a reminder of that energy for you, which is during this new wave of awakening that you're going through. And by no means does this mean that it's your first awakening. It's going to come with different opinions. And my advice for you, with love, pile ones, would be don't jump to express it to everyone what you're going through. Keep some of this information to yourself and know that when the right ears are ready to listen, God will make those doors open for you to express those truths with people. So that's a loving message here from If You Pause. If you enjoyed it, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. Check out the If You Pause website, ifyoupause.com. And I'll see you in the next reading. Take care. Okay, pile number 2. I feel like for pile 2s, there could be a slight element of like confusion in your life. Confusion's coming through. I'm not sure how to draw this. Excuse my clamminess. Pen's running out. Beautiful reading, pile number 2s. Just the energy behind it. Really, really beautiful reading. Now, okay, so what you got here is a dude, or a woman, up to you. Say it's a dude though. Building, and it's interesting because it seems to be like they're building a doorway. And I could be wrong, but I believe that the term for this stone would be called the keystone. Like in an archway, whenever you've got an archway, there's that stone that's in the middle, which is really important. And sometimes it's a bit larger to the other stones because it's distributing the weight around the arch. So it's an important stone, and I feel like pile number two's this character here is actually not even so this would be kind of the keystone about to go in. So if I was to draw this a bit more accurately, this one stone would be almost showing that it's the future. You know, it's about to go in. It's not actually in yet. You know, so it would be maybe dotted to show that it's going to go in that spot. And this guy here is basically crafting that keystone to go in that last slot. What I did find kind of interesting is that we've kind of got some like characteristics that are coming through, which kind of help explain the reading. The fact that he's got a top hat, I feel signifies some form of like your personality in this phase, or possibly even your character. Maybe doing something which is I don't know, it's kind of got gentleman vibes, hasn't it? But not necessarily just gentleman vibes, because I know there's probably some females watching this too. How would you relate to that? You know, like your smart etiquette, basically. So what kind of woman would this man have on his arm? That's the energy that you're embracing if you're a woman watching this. In terms of career, I'm getting possibly fashion. You know, because one could argue possibly like financial. What's the word, like inner city vibes, but you could also argue like designer, luxury designer, fashion designer, even like, it's funny, I was kind of getting like watch designers, you know, like watchmakers as well. The fact that he's got some form of tool in his hand as well, that does remind me of like a, you know, like a maker, like a leather maker, a shoemaker. It's kind of got that vibe to it as well, which is interesting. Like especially like especially like a shoemaker. In fact, I dated a shoemaker before, and I was quite surprised about how physical that work actually is. Like, you definitely don't have to, like sometimes some of these more delicate looking objects have quite a physical, what's the word? You need to be quite physically tolerant to actually produce some of these delicate objects, you know? Like, I know specifically when you are merging the sole onto the main part of the shoe, like, you know, the sole on the back end, you know, and especially with like loafers and stuff, you have to hammer like literally nails into the sole of the shoe, you know. That's just an example. In fact, you know, that's kind of just a very obvious example there of physical labor, right? But I also remember like leather as a material. Leather is quite tough, so I think people get confused with that as well, as like even cutting leather sometimes, bending leather to your will. It's don't get me wrong, I'm in architecture, so it's not the same as like pouring concrete or something like that. But all I'm saying is that there is a heavy duty side to it, and I don't know. I feel like Spirit is just highlighting that, and that's mainly for confirmation for some of you watching out there. You might be in a career where you can relate to what I'm saying. Is that people sometimes underestimate the laborious side of it, and even fashion. I know for a fact, even like sewing certain garments, heavy fabrics and stuff, people can break up a sweat through doing that for sure. So yeah, I don't know, maybe there's a little bit of honouring in that as well. Just pile number 2 is while you're listening to this. Spirit's kind of giving you your honour, your salute. Your can't do it with my fingers, but that's my hand on my head, and saluting you to your physical labour in creating what you create. And although it's not always seen by the masses, Spirit sees the physical hard work that you put in to creating what you create, the discipline that you might have, or the discipline that you're stepping into. So yeah, kind of just to summarize, Pile 2s, there's kind of like this keystone moment coming into your life. Your urgent message is that you're filling in that last piece of possibly a masterpiece that you're creating. This may be that you've been creating lots of content, or creating a new garment, creating a new product, and Spirit is saying to you that you're on that last part where you're putting in that last keystone into this piece, and Spirit is just commending you on not just you finishing that keystone piece, but for the hard work and discipline that you've put into mastering your craft. So Part 2's, like I said, beautiful message. I knew it was going to be a beautiful one, just from the whole like positioning of this illustration. It's almost like just, it was divinely set up. I'm trying to think, the composition was just 100% right. So I knew it was going to be a beautiful message because the composition of it. But yeah, salute to you again, Pile 2s, because I can see that you've been literally chiseling away at something. Quite literally chiseling away at something. And I know all about that life. If you've seen the progress of this channel, you know that I understand that process. So salute to you. Some people will never know that process as well. So just remember that, Pile 2s, is that there's only few people who can really appreciate what that actually looks like, because most people talk. So yeah, and even I just want to add here, because I don't want to deflate anyone's confidence with that last message, is that we are all on our journey, right, to evolve, develop, be better, create. We're all on that journey, and if you're watching this and you feel like, man, I haven't done enough work, just know that for your capacity, Spirit sees you. This is definitely a positive message for everyone who's watching it, whoever was drawn to watch this video. This is definitely a salute to everyone who is watching this, that you have been, to some extent, trying your best, putting the work in to your full capacity, and now you're hitting that final keystone. So again, this isn't a message to compare people and say some of us are really hardworking and some of us are not. That's not what I was trying to say. What I was trying to say is that there's some of us who try the best that we can, whatever capacity that may be, and there's some people who don't. And as far as I'm concerned, if you're watching this message, you're in that group of people who are at least trying their best, even though you might stumble and fall, even though you may not be completely satisfied with the work that you do, even though you feel like you may be behind, even though you may feel like you make mistakes. Spirit kind of sees you and is giving you your salute. So, Paltus, if you enjoyed the reading, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. Thank you for tuning in. Check out the If You Pause website, ifyoupause.com, and I'll see you in the next reading. Take care. Okay, I got the vibe come through. I don't have the imagery yet. Got the vibe. Okay. Added a tiny bit of like irregularity to the hair because no one's hair is like completely straight on that cut unless if you're a runway model. Not sure if you picked up on that detail, part number 3s. I'm guessing some of you did, that's why I made a statement of it. So a few details here to pick up. Interestingly, and not accidentally, I don't think, the hands are slightly behind their back. So I don't want to ruin the drawing, but if I was to give it a sideways view, I'm definitely gonna ruin this drawing. But I feel like some of you need this. If it was a sideways drawing, the posture would be like that. And with that, I'm just going to highlight a few key points. So, what you was probably wondering what's going on with the feet here. I was actually trying to draw. She's like got these high heels on. So I was trying to draw that from the back end, the high heels, and to be honest, maybe like on her tiptoes as well. So I'm just going to explain this drawing, and you're going to take away hopefully some key words on how it relates to you. So kind of just describing some of these important details, and then I want you to try and implement them into how this message applies to you. So I've got high heels on, but I'd also say this character is somewhat like on their tiptoes too, because their chest area to me is projecting, so it's like they're getting the sun through their chest. Their chest is being pushed out. And as you probably know from my drawings now, this isn't necessarily a woman who's overweight. I just have a certain style where I draw people in kind of irregular, what's the word? Loose fit, baggy clothing. Don't know, I just vibe with it. So nothing here to do with necessarily weight, but more positioning and posture. So her arms are behind her back, not necessarily crossed or not necessarily hiding something, but in the projection of her chest, it is forcing her hands slightly to her back, to her rear. The chin is slightly raised. It's not all the way tilted back, because we would have a different drawing here. You would have the nose, the face shown in this drawing. That would almost give me the vibes of more being possessed. You know, if someone's floating and their head is turned back completely, the face showing there, it's not that. It's definitely someone somewhat sun gazing. But like I said, it feels like there's a projection from the chest. So it's inputting, that character is really like inputting that energy. Through the chest. So what have we got there? We've got inputting energy from the chest. We've got this, there is something quite old-fashioned about this drawing. It kind of reminds me of don't know what that period is called, but it would be like the Great Gatsby. Great Gatsby. I think the movie or book is called The Great Gatsby. I think it's called that. It would be kind of that point of time. It reminds me like this character could possibly be in like her nightgown as well, not necessarily in her outerwear. It's slightly got a little bit of like a nun vibe to it, a little bit. Or maybe not even a nun, but like a religious person. So again, like when I'm saying these words, I want you to kind of relate that to yourself. Are these characteristics that are within yourself? If not, then the beauty is that, well, for one, it could be something, it could be a message of your future. That's for one. And then for two, if it completely doesn't resonate, then hopefully that brings you closer to yourself. Sometimes when someone says, hey, I think you're this, and you really ain't that, it's good because it brings you to yourself. It makes you realize, okay, yeah, I'm really not that. You know, like if someone says, hey, you know, I think you would be a really good singer. And whenever you think of singing, you're like, ugh, no way. It's like, that's good because it makes you think, so what do I like? What does represent me? So yeah, there's an elegance here with the hair as well. You may be in a place where you're doing quite well with your health, pile threes. Like I'm getting healthy hair here. And again, that might trigger someone because they might feel like their hair is like shit at the moment. And that could just be pointing at the fact that you're going to be paying more attention to your hair. Given that more love. This is, again, it would be the equivalent of showing your future about once you've done that work on your hair, you're going to appreciate it a lot more. It's going to be beautiful. Male or female. So the main word that actually came through before I started to draw, I'm not sure if I said it out loud, but I got the word before the drawing with this one. And the word was be. Just got some confirmation outside. Be. So pile number 3s, I feel like your urgent message is a lot to do with being. It is not like, so we've had 2 other piles obviously in this reading, and I can't remember if both, I wouldn't say both of them, but there was definitely one which was including action. This wasn't necessarily, so this isn't necessarily about taking action, this is more about the energy of being. But remember, like sometimes in being there is action. I know that probably goes against every spiritual description or analysis on the idea of being. Only hear it if you pause. We go against the grain over here, bitch. Let me explain myself. Let me explain myself through spirit. Sometimes, in order to be successfully, we need to take certain actions in order to create the groundwork in order to be successfully. So an example for you would be like, let's say if your state of just being was in meditation, sometimes you need to learn how to meditate before you can successfully meditate. Sometimes you need to practice, right? So it's all well and good saying just be silent, just receive, just attract abundance through being. But sometimes we need to implement certain practices in place before we can successfully do that. And that's what I mean by sometimes being takes action. And part of what your learning or your urgent messages is that part of this being for you is definitely to do with the sun. Now, funnily enough, as I say that out loud, this possibly could be representing the moon too. So flip these what are they called? Because they're not planets, are they? The sun and the moon. These energies, flip them as you see fit. For me, I probably draw more from the sun than the moon. So I was quite literally seeing the sun in this, like a sunset. But, you know, although the moon doesn't really set in the same way as a sun, as I verbally said it, I could see this as a moon, like a landscape and a moon, you know. So despite its positioning, I do encourage you to switch that if you feel like the moon resonates more for you. So in order to be, we can kind of anchor back to some of those points that I was describing earlier. I feel like in order to be successfully Palfreys, you need to position yourself correctly. And I feel like, funny enough, like the high heels even have something symbolic behind them, which kind of represent, like, when you think about high heels, they make someone taller. I just think this is brilliant. Like, only spirit could come up with these metaphors. But someone in high heels, they create this illusion of them being taller than they are. So I think in part of your positioning, in order to successfully be, you have to elevate. High heels elevate the user. They also put them in a posture and a positioning which allows them to, in many ways, push their chest out. So you may be able to relate to this in terms of like yoga. Think about yoga positionings where in order to really operate in a comfortable position to meditate, you may need to be in a specific position which allows you to utilize that meditation time in the best way. There's something here to do with being able to absorb energy, quite literally. So one of the things that I learned about kind of this process of sun gazing or moon gazing is that you actually do have to practice the technique. Otherwise, it's like I don't know why, but Spirit's given me like, it seems a very distant analogy, but like riding a bike. You know, like, you know, people say it's just like riding a bike and it's easy once you get it, you're fine. Well, it's like Spirit's kind of given me the analogy of like riding a bike and like driving a car. It's like, yeah, you might be able to ride a bike basically. You might be able to drive a car basically, but there are levels. Like, there is a difference between your average Joe who drives and Lewis Hamilton on an F1 track. There is a difference between riding a bike and then going to the Olympics to ride a bike. There are levels to it, right? But most people are okay in the spectrum of average or just about being okay to do it. And Spirit is reminding you of that, is that just like riding a bike or driving a car, yeah, there's a basic, you know, basically everyone can go to the beach and feel some sun on their skin and feel good about it. And then there's others out there who can go to the beach, absorb the sun, and let every single cell in their body recharge, can let every single emotion in their body feel lifted and lighter, can feel that sun on their skin and feel literally their skin recovering, recharging, rejuvenating. They can have their sun on their skin and they can have access to Akashic records, past lives, healed traumaed memories. Do you see where I'm going? It's like, that's a different experience at the goddamn beach, goddamn it. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, some dude there got his beach mat out, trying to get a tan. And then there's motherfuckers like you out there who just done all those things that I just said. Two people at the beach, two different, completely different experiences. Can I get an amen, hallelujah? Part 3 is that's your reading, and a beautiful one at that. If you enjoyed the reading, please do remember to like, comment and subscribe. Check out the If You Pause website, ifyoupause.com. I mean that, Part 3s. Please check out the website. Support if you can. And I'll see you guys in the next reading. Take care.